Okay, our next presenter is David Miller, currently the Chief Maintenance Engineer, where he has responsibilities for headquarter maintenance sections. Dave is going to talk about our working group on outreach and communications.
I'm still not quite sure how I became the chair of this national working group, but I'm going to blame Ed. Ben, I'd like to thank you and your group. Y'all actually helped send me to this Transcom meeting, which I'll explain through these slides how that connects to this national working group on outreach and communications, which was formerly the social media group. I guess a while back, maybe halfway through last year, we somehow found out that there existed another AASHTO group that is made up solely of the public information officers of the state DOTs. I contacted them and we started a discussion, and ultimately it led to, well, we need to figure out how to connect with these guys because they're the professionals. They believe in our message and what we're trying to do, and they're very familiar with it, so we've got to find a way to connect with them. So they have an annual meeting just like MAC or COBS or any of the other AASHTO groups, and they did back in Indianapolis in the end of July, and so I got to go to this conference and sit in and listen to what they had to say. All four partnerships helped fund my travel to go there, so I appreciate that. So the first thing I wanted to do was connect with some of the people that were there. These were some of the names. I'm not going to read through them. Interesting note here is the last name on there is someone with the group, the TRIP group, and we've worked with them over the years as they put out publications from Washington that their ultimate goal is to help us get funding. We weren't sure in the beginning whether they were on our side or not on our side, so you're a little reluctant when you have people publishing, but they actually work with us and allow us to help craft their report. One of the key people was Maggie and Carolyn. We invited them in on our last conference call that we had, which was last month, and Maggie did participate. She's an AASHTO. Three of the names on there in the previous slide were AASHTO employees with various different tasks. So some of the notes that I took from the meeting that I thought related to bridge preservation and communicating and outreach regarding that, most of the conversations that occurred were regarding some sort of funding related to funding and funding increases. And the host state that we were in, Indiana, actually had just had a large increase in their state contribution for highway infrastructure. 40% of that was going to go to local owners. One of the interesting stipulations was that the counties had to actually have asset management plans, bridge management plans in place, which is, for me, it's just, I can't even imagine that because there's no way we were going to get. There's a few of our parishes we could get to do that, but probably most of them would be like trying to herd cats. But one of those speakers on the panel that was talking about this was a state legislator from there, and he gave me this quote, which I thought was amazing. If you don't like change, you're going to hate extinction. And that was aimed at the counties that, hey, you got to get with the program or you're not going to get funding. Some of the other challenges when additional funding is put in place is that usually they want to put it towards new highways and bridges. And yet we're stuck with preserving and maintaining what already exists. So one of the key statements that was used to get some of those funds directed towards preservation and maintenance was that the funds are necessary for protecting past investments. In talking with other states, they've used some of the same kind of terminology in getting some of that new funding aimed towards preservation and maintenance. I kind of touched on this. The TRIP report is intended to be helpful. I don't know if they've contacted any of you, but they're on our side. They actually will help craft a message that would be tailored towards your state. So we're going to get them plugged in to our working group. A couple of the other points was that these guys, again, they're the PIOs. So I have to tell you, it was unlike any other conference I've been to, because all these other conferences are with guys like y'all, engineers for the most part. public information officers, and they march to the beat of a different drum for sure. Interesting. So they think that currently the best way of getting messages across is through storytelling. Idaho gave a presentation on using audio podcasts. Ohio uses video podcasts. Some of the key points regarding those podcasts is the star of the story should not be your state highway, bridge, or DOTD, but the public or whoever it is you're trying to get your message across to. And you should always explain why you're doing what you're doing, not just what you are doing. I think we all tend to, as engineers, get into the nuts and bolts and not necessarily when we're trying to communicate messages outward on why we're doing what we're doing. Possibly we might want to put together a list of acronyms that we all use from time to time. We also need to probably be more intentional with our discussions with our main material suppliers. I know, and the reason I'm saying this is on the pavement side, the concrete and asphalt guys have been real plugged in and helping get funding for roads. We haven't been quite so successful in doing that with our bridge side. One of the reasons I'm here also is to recruit. We are currently working to move the time slot for our monthly meeting, and Ed's going to be sending out kind of a Google poll to figure out when we're going to do that. We lost some membership when we shifted a time a while back, and we're going to move it to where we can gain some membership. So anybody who's interested in joining this group, getting in on the monthly conference call, we'd love to have you. We're going to continue to work with Trip on messaging and developing a roadmap for working with Transcom. I think that they are going to be a key to helping our group be successful in creating some good communication plans, both internally and externally.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.